Welcome to episode 173 of the Forward from 50 podcast, where we interview people over 50 who are pursuing new direction for their lives. It's an opportunity for men and women to tell their stories their way and in their own words. I'm Greg Gerber, the founder of Forward from 50, and your host for today's show. My guest today is Mischelle Saunders-Gottsch. She's the founder of Altered Stories Ministry. It is a faith-based nonprofit that helps women around the world to share amazing stories of healing, redemption, and hope. After surviving a traumatic childhood cult experience, Mischelle spent years working through the pain and confusion that shaped her early life. But after turning 50, she stepped boldly into a new season of purpose by returning to college, launching a ministry, and helping many women to find their voices through storytelling. In this episode, Mischelle shares how God transformed her pain into purpose and why she believes every person has a story worth telling. You'll also hear several key takeaways from our conversation. First, stories have the power to heal because they remind people they are not alone in their struggles. Second, it is never too late to go back to school, pursue a dream, or even reinvent your life with purpose and intention. Third, healing often begins when we finally slow down long enough to confront the burdens we've been carrying for years. Finally, Mischelle explains how faith, community, and vulnerability can help people move from surviving life to truly living it. To tell us more about her story, please welcome Mischelle Saunders-Gottsch to the show. Thanks for joining me today, Mischelle. I really appreciate it. Tell me a little bit about Altered Stories and this ministry you've developed around it.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity, Greg. I'm so thrilled to be here. Yeah, so Altered Stories Ministry is a faith-based evangelistic storytelling nonprofit ministry that helps Christian women all over the world share their God stories so women around the world can hear them and never feel alone in their struggles. So we really are a storytelling ministry, and the core is our brand podcast called The Altered Stories Show. And that is where we actually go ahead and interview those women that are willing to share their stories and get them out there and help them promote and do all the wonderful things that we do in that process. So I've been doing this for about 7+ years. I'm the founder and CEO. I have a board. I have a team of people who help me through the work that we have in this space of storytelling. And we're continuing to work on our expansion and growth and get those stories out there.
I love that. I think stories are so important. First of all, Jesus told a lot of stories. Most of the teaching that he came was through stories. The best part about stories is nobody can argue with it, right? If you're talking to people about whatever the topic is, and they can argue points of it, but they can't argue with your story because you own it. This is what I experienced. And then by sharing that, other people say, I experienced that too. And now they know they're not alone. I love it. Love what you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you. Sure. I appreciate that.
What kind of stories are these women telling?
Geez, they tell so many different types of stories, trauma-based stories, hard stories, Greg, hard stories coming out of sex trafficking, childhood abuse, domestic violence, cancer survival. Some have just unbelievable stories of where they almost died, came back to life, suicide, just addiction. The stories just range depending on the culture. I have women who've shared their stories from Barbados, women who've shared their stories from India, also Canada, and then also South Africa. I have a series of those. There's just so many stories, Greg, that I go to bed at night and I'm like, there's a woman waiting to tell her story. It's really a passion of mine, and it's a calling.
Not only to tell their stories, but to hear it, because those kind of things live and thrive in darkness. So when you bring that into the light and let people know that other people have done it and how they've escaped or overcome this problem, you're just increasing and multiplying joy all over the world.
It's a calling. It's an honor. Some days I just can't believe that I'm doing it and blessed to be able to do it. So I'm doing it on my own. You know, I sure would love some partners, some supporters. I'd love more. You're giving me some airtime here, and I really appreciate it, though.
Oh, absolutely. I love doing this kind of thing because it is so important. People are struggling in so many different ways, and it is so important for them to feel that they're not alone.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, I understand that you founded this or started this because you have a dark story to tell as well. You were a cult survivor or are a cult survivor.
Yes, I was a childhood cult survivor from the age of 7 up until I was 12. My mom naively got herself into a cult, and it changed the trajectory of her life and our life as a family. And it brought in chaos, trauma, abuse, all kinds of things that just made it very difficult to thrive in that cult. And unfortunately, I was one of several that were immersed in this, and it happens way too often.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I didn't realize the extent of it in terms of the abuse, the trauma, what it really did to me and how it affected me until later on in life. And it was through God's grace, and it was through a counselor that I was able to see for another stress management type of issue that really brought the awareness of what I came out of and why I was reacting the way I was and why my behaviors were the way they were. And that revelation really opened up my eyes and began the healing process for me and began my journey.
At that age, 7 to 12, it's a little too early to start playing mind games, but physical abuse would occur in those kind of situations many times. So that's a sad story to begin with.
Yeah, it is. And unfortunately, everybody deals with that kind of trauma differently, depending on their personality. And it took a long time for my mother to come out of that. And it just affected and jaded my view on who God was, what the church was all about, all of that. I was very confused. And it also definitely deterred me from wanting to embrace Christianity or embrace any kind of organized religion.
I could certainly understand that. So did you and your mom come out of that together, or were you able to be extracted before your mom?
My mom and I came out of it together. It was hard, though, for my mom because she didn't quite relinquish her emotional bond and connection. And she was conditioned from the cult leadership. And it was a long time after she actually just stepped away that she really actually began to recognize and realize the impact that had on her life, on her marriage, on her children. And it took a while for her to really step into that accountability and make recognition that she was responsible for bringing her family into it.
You had brothers and sisters who were involved in that too?
I do. I try to keep that quiet,
Okay.
Respect for them.
Correct.
But yes, I do. But that's the extent of what I'm going to share.
Okay, that's fine. And so these stories and the ones that you do on Altered Stories website and platform, they're inspiring others to do what? To change their lives or to come to faith?
I think they're inspiring a variety of things. They're inspiring women that hear, or even the men, to really understand who God is and how he can come into the life and the circumstances of the darkest of circumstances and change a person's life. That's why we call it altered. It's when God comes in, makes a change, transforms you, and turned your life around. And that is what these stories do. They actually alter the path or can alter a person's worldview, can alter their faith, can strengthen their faith. It can help a woman or someone, a man even that is listening, to overcome circumstances as a result of the story that is being shared. And it can also provide hope through Jesus Christ, because most of my guests bring God the glory. And that's how we work in how we choose our guests too, is how God has came in and brought a change and altered their life.
It's amazing how that happens. And it doesn't matter what the condition is. Nothing is too dark for God to penetrate. Once the door is open, he's standing there knocking. Are we going to open the door and answer? That's the question. Yes.
Absolutely. He pursues us.
Do you work with men at all, or is it just all women?
This is a women's organization. We just focused on the women's ministry aspect of it. Although I do have outsourced vendors and those that support. We do have men that help from the technical side, the production side, the editing side. We would be open to a man on our board if it's the right fit that brings what we need to be helping us expand and grow,
That makes sense.
But primarily we do, these women's stories, because I came out of women's ministry roles, and I just feel called for that purpose.
I think that's wonderful, because too many times women lose their voice. And so you're giving them their voice back to tell their story. And in doing that, empowering them and the other women who are listening to it become empowered as well. So I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, you returned to college rather late in life and graduated at 56. What prompted you to go back to school?
Well, I always wanted to finish college. I actually wanted to go to college. And it was always my hope to be able to get my degree, although I was wanting to do initially journalism, and I changed my direction into business. But I wanted to finish up at a Christian university, and I knew that I was being called to create this nonprofit, build it, and I felt like I needed that background in a liberal arts type of Christian university that was credible. So I went to Colorado Christian University. At that time, I was working at Compassion International, and God was moving me into supporting that organization with my gifting that I had in IT, technology, and program project management, and team governance, building teams and orgs and things like that in the technology space. So I started there feeling called to work on finishing up. And I then moved on to trying to continue to finish when I worked at Focus on the Family. That's where I jumped into broadcasting and brought Altered Stories ministry to life, because I was encouraged by their broadcasting group and team. They helped me come up with the name and got all the right people in the right seats after I left Focus on the Family and finished my education. And I even got to do a demo and a PowerPoint presentation to some of the students of what I was building and what I was wanting to do with Altered Stories Ministry. And it was in the technology area, because we do everything primarily online. And I knew the technology well. And hey, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's neat. I got the opportunity to visit the Focus on the Family headquarters a number of years ago. And my daughters, I have 3 of them, when they were growing up, they were all over the Adventures in Odyssey series. We could not get them to stop listening to those. We went through, countless tapes, because they'd play them so often they'd wear them out. But that's neat.
That's so cool. Yeah. I didn't get a chance to stay there that long, but I learned a lot in the short time I was there about all their different programs. And I did, of course, go through and the Welcome Center. And so I would do various things with them. And they're a great family ministry.
That's excellent. I also like the fact that you did go back to school as an older adult, because so many older adults talk themselves out of it. I'm too old to go back. I'll never be able to relate with the young kids today, etc. But you decided to push ahead with that.
I did.
Yep. Okay. Was that a big decision or challenge for you to go back to school at that age?
No,
No.
not at that time. But I will tell you, I had a setback where I was in a car accident. Someone back-ended me and I had a concussion, and I almost didn't graduate in the timing I wanted. It was hard with the concussion to finish up, but thankfully the professors there were gracious to me and helped me through. I think God gave me a boldness and a courage to do what I needed to do, because he knew late in life I was going to make a change in my career path. And I was going to jump out of what I was doing into entrepreneurial building, ministry, doing what I've been doing over the last 7 years. And I needed that confidence. There's one thing I will say for me. I always wanted to go to college and finish up. And I did go to college, but I never finished. And my husband encouraged me every step of the way. My daughter, I told her, you're going to college. It doesn't matter. She didn't have a choice. She went to college. But you know what? She was the one who inspired me, because she finished. I'm like, I got to give my degree too. And she was so proud of me when I did that. And then I had so many friends that were like, go do it. And I was able to do it in their adult ed program. And there were others that were in my age group that are going back there. So there's an adult program, and so many universities are doing that now. Shoot, if you can, you should. Do not. And I still love to learn. I just think it keeps us alive. It keeps our brains going, and it gives us purpose. And I don't put an age criteria on me. I just do whatever God calls me and needs me to do. And I'll set my limitations as God sets them. So, you know what? It was a blast, and I'm glad I did it. It was hard work. It was hard work because I did it while I was working too. And it was a short stint that I did it when I wasn't working. So, you can do whatever you put your mind to if you have purpose and reason for why you're doing it. And I saw it as a credible thing to do as part of my ministry vision.
Mm-hmm. I went back to school in my 30s when I was a father of 3 under 5. And I was working full time and still going to school, taking 21 credits a semester just to get it done. And I found it easier to go back as an adult than I did as an 18, 19, 20-year-old, because I had life experience that taught me so many things that we were talking about. And I just think it gave me an advantage over some of the younger students. So I think everybody should go back if they want to. That's right. My mom always wanted to go to college.
Yeah.
She took a couple of classes here and there, but never really wanted to put in the effort to graduate, because I'm already in my 60s. What am I going to do with it? Who cares? You've always wanted to do this. You're learning, you're growing, and something might come out of it.
And you never know
exactly
what can come out of it. I think it helped me bring credibility to the ministry work I'm doing with Altered Stories. So I'm so grateful I had that opportunity to do it.
I
really am.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask, is how did going back to school much later in life help you prepare for what you're doing now?
Well, integration of secular and faith, being able to, although this is a faith-based ministry, it taught me all kinds of things about the Bible, because we were able to take Bible classes. It helped me keep up to date with copyright, content management, software. What's the latest in the software technology space in terms of methodology. I was, believe it or not, I was recording YouTube videos then for my journaling. There's so many things that God was preparing me for what I'm doing in this ministry that, yeah, I could see even when I was doing contract work and other work at Compassion and focus on the family too. So all of it comes together. All of it is for his plan and purpose.
What was it like to work with the younger students?
There weren't that many. They were in their 30s. I thought it was great. I like all age groups. People in my community group in my church, we have different age groups. I like having different age groups to work with. And I think for me, it was a blessing to where I could share my wisdom or share anything that might inspire them or encourage them. So,
and many times at this age, we have a vast network that can be used to help these other folks as well, because we always know somebody and we can introduce them to people that will help advance their careers.
I do believe that. I believe that strongly.
Yeah. You recently published a book titled The Story Within You, The Healing Power of Your Story. Tell us a little bit about that.
This is my book. It is a 30-day healing memoir devotional that takes a reader through day by day, and it kind of walks them through my story each day, but brings a scripture theme, a healing application, then there's a story piece, and then there's questions at the end. Well, I do a summation there and then move into the questions. And then from those, a person can then take and formulate maybe where they need healing based on that story piece. Or it can ignite something as part of their story. And it's almost like a roadmap to their own healing, but doing it on their own as I guide them through each day of the devotion.
Does it help them put their own story into perspective?
I think so. I think each day it talks about the faithfulness of God as the healer. God redeems. God healing is God heals through salvation. It's all got a healing component to it. And it was really a book that was unique in that way. And I was fortunate to work with a Redemption Press author coach who helped me with the formula and formation of this so that it was going to provide a reader with healing as they read my story and they formulated their own.
That's good. I know that life can sometimes seem like we were dropped in the middle of a movie without having any idea of what came before us and what we're doing there and what's happening around us. And so understanding our story is so important to enjoying life as it is right now.
Yes. And it is also, some people, they're not ready to tell their story or they're still dealing with it. I wish I would have had something like this for me that I would have picked up and I could go in and see that there is another person that has written their story, but also breaks it out so that I can relate to it and then also bring out those areas that I have to think about in order to get my story inside of me out. So it's really called The Story Within You, The Healing Power of Your Story.
That's right. And that's very important because so many times readers can read the story and then say, she understands me because she's going through and expressing the same things that I have been experiencing now. And that can be very powerful in itself because not only lets them know that they're not alone, but that if she overcame this, I can too, if I follow this same path.
Yeah. And the healing scriptures, there's so much there that I brought out from the Bible and biblical application too. So it embraces Jesus Christ in the healing he provides through the story and the devotions that I've created. So that's putting him on the throne too.
Where he belongs.
Yes.
If you could turn the clock back, is there anything you do differently with your life?
Wow, that's such a great question. I think I would probably have gotten healing, tried to get healing sooner than when I did, taking the time, slowing myself down to at least work through what I came out of. But the timing of it was all intended by God. So
that's a very good point. Yeah, the earlier we can leave that or let down those bags and just walk away from that, the things, the burdens that we've been carrying with us, the better life will be.
Yes, I agree. So being healed sooner rather than later.
Exactly. And a lot of people I say, or I've talked to have gone through similar things, have said, yes, I should have started this earlier because I see the benefits. But it's all in God's timing. We had to grow to a point where we were ready to start healing, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And ready to make admission that we needed it.
Exactly. That's right. So what's next for you?
That's a big loaded question. I will say that with Altered Stories Ministry, God gave me a word this year, expansion. And so what I am working on building and bringing to fruition is a podcast network, a community of independent podcasters, Christian women, independent podcasters that have a mission similar to mine, that want to get their message out, but want to also exchange ideas, help one another, actually maybe bring cross-promotion, growth in their skills and their spiritual growth, but bringing those into a community called the Be Heard, Be Healed network. And I don't think there's enough community out there in the podcasting world where there is the storytelling and the focus on building the kingdom of God and bringing God glory through the stories. I just feel there needs to be more collaboration and more support, whether it's you've had your podcast out for a year or so, or you've had your podcast out for 5-10 years, whatever, but it's a community of other Christian women that want to come together and support each other in our storytelling niche and evangelistic calling there.
That's kind of neat that you're combining the efforts of a bunch of people, and that in itself will multiply the impact that you can have.
Exactly. So mission-based.
Right.
So that's one area that we're hoping, and then we can expand, partner with other ministry-based organizations that are trying to also help and support those in the podcasting space. And there's a lot of different Christian podcasters out there and people that are actually trying to do business and support them.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Are you a member of the Christian Podcasters Association?
Yes. I started with Eric Nevins.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. He was very instrumental in getting my story out there. He was like the first podcast I ever went on. So I met him in Denver. So yeah.
How can people support you in your mission?
I would say go out and check out our website at www.alteredstories.org. Listen to our YouTube channel, podcast on your platforms, Altered Stories Show. Get out there, share the stories, pray over us, consider giving us a donation, going out and buying our merchandise. You can buy my book on Amazon. And that all the proceeds, royalties go back to Altered Stories Ministry If you know anybody that's interested in a board role, we're looking for board members. If you know anybody that would be interested in coming into a community of podcasters, we're hoping to roll this podcast network out in the end of June, but have them reach out. We'll be getting more details and all of that together as we get it in a place of where we can communicate what we're doing there.
Can people be on your board even though they don't live next to you or near you?
We can have board members. I'd love to have a board member with some podcasting background. Yeah, because we are a remote ministry. I co-work in Lee Summit, and then all my board members are all over, and we use Zoom a lot for all of what we need in the technology space until I'm able to expand into a location. And I'm hoping to do that in the future in Colorado Springs.
Okay, very good. How can people connect with you personally?
You can actually check me out on Facebook. I have my own Facebook timeline. You can go to Altered Stories Ministry. We've got a page. We've got the Altered Stories Show. I'm out on LinkedIn. Personally, that's probably the best. You can DM me, connect with me on LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, go on to Facebook, go to Messenger. That's a good place. Go to my website. You can submit a request, and just those ways are the best ways to get a hold of me.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing your story with me today. Sounds like an exciting ministry and one that's having a big impact on a lot of lives. So I wish you the best of luck going forward.
Thank you, Greg. Be blessed.
Mischelle Saunders-Gottsch's story is a wonderful reminder that our most painful experiences do not have to define us forever. Instead, those experiences can become the very foundation for helping others to heal, grow, and rediscover hope. What gives Mischelle meaning and purpose after 50 is helping women to share their stories openly and honestly so others can hear them, relate to those stories, and realize they are not alone. Through Altered Stories Ministry, Mischelle is creating a space where healing, faith, and encouragement come together through the power of storytelling. She's also continuing to expand her mission by building a network of Christian women podcasters who can support and encourage one another while spreading messages of hope around the world. If you'd like to learn more about Mischelle, connect with her, support Altered Stories Ministry, or purchase her book, The Story Within You, The Healing Power of Your Story, visit alteredstories.org. You can also connect with Mischelle on LinkedIn and Facebook. That's all for this week's show. If you'd like to start living a more meaningful life, I encourage you to download our free guide to finding purpose, which is available at www.forwardfrom50.com. I'll have another inspirational interview on the next episode of the Forward from 50 podcast. Thanks for listening, and if you like this show, please consider leaving a review wherever you download the episodes.